In terms of ASSAP news, let me share some few things over to you. So, magazine is currently sat on Norrie's floor. There's 20 boxes of magazines, and we're just waiting for her to return from the Bay of Biscay, where she is currently enjoying a cruise. So when she gets back, they're going to be shipped off to everyone. That's all pretty good. So the ASSAP e-news went out yesterday. I got to write that, perhaps for the first time. Bill, our librarian and archivist, he's currently moving address. So he asked the committee if they could fill in and obviously write our newsletter. So I kind of took the ball with it and made it look in the same style and formatting as our website that is currently going through a bit of a transition behind the scenes. Steve Hume, our tech guy, has been within the industry of website development and databases and so on for and I have been playing around with the back end of the ASSAP site. So there's a few functions we'd like to get everyone familiar with over the next 6 months or so. That sounds pretty interesting. Caroline, what about you, my love? What have you been up to? So I hear you're going away soon.
Oh, yeah, I'm just going away on a press weekend. I can't talk about it at the moment, but I will obviously have it all out there on social media after we've been somewhere very nice and it's paranormal. So I'll do a write-up for ASSAP, to the website. Getting over Halloween still, because there's an awful lot of footage that we have to go through after we run events. And yeah, so just been keeping busy, keeping up to date with all of my articles that's going out. I've got a new one coming out, hopefully, in the next Haunted magazine as well. But yeah, that's it for us. Still looking to book now for March onwards for speakers for the Seriously Strange.
In the wings, we have our amazing guest. That is someone we haven't had on here for a little while, and it's the topic of the moment. That is 3i Atlas, that I believe is flying away at 65,000 miles, moving away from the sun, moving away from the Earth. But of course, it was a topic that literally gripped the internet. It gripped every news story that I saw. And I'm going to introduce Amethyst, because she has quite the history. So Amethyst Grey, she was born on the Isle of Wight, near Callanbrook Castle, and has been inspired by fossils and crystals, Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. She's a maths whiz. She earned a physics degree from the University of London and has built a career around IT, and then rediscovered a passion for crystals and alternative history. And as I was saying to her on the back channel beforehand, I met Amethyst for the first time, perhaps 2016, 2017, at an Alternative View conference, and we've stayed in contact ever since. Now, where she lives, she's based near the Avery Stone Circle. She teaches angelic Reiki, practices access bars, and has fun around past life regression and future life progression, which is a topic I definitely want to be tickling her with. She's lectured on various topics for ASSAP, including the Titanic and Atlantis, and she has a large number of books that she has published, including the Renaissance France published The Huntress from 2019 and The Priestess and The Heiress, and has wrote a book series called The Little Book. It includes a little book of pyramids. Definitely worth looking at, because it's quite interesting. And now, of course, she wishes to present on the topic of 3i Atlas. Now, I prefaced this on Facebook and on Twitter as saying chaos, confusion, and conspiracies, because they are the three topics that are always concurrent with the topic of 3i Atlas. Now, hopefully, Amethyst can set us straight on some of the stories surrounding this mysterious object that has flown through our solar system. So, Amethyst, if that's okay with you, can I hand over to you to present on the 3i Atlas?
Yeah, certainly. I think if any of you went to the conference a few years back, I managed to blub badly at the end when I was talking about Tesla. So yes. I'll try not to in this particular case. But I think the bottom line on 3i Atlas is that if anyone tells you they know what it is, or that it's definitely not alien, or that it definitely is alien, they're mistaken and or lying, because at the moment no one knows, because it's strange. It's sort of a comet, but it's sort of not. So I will go through the aspects of it, and I literally added one today. So there's a kind of half-done slide, which I'll have to fill in afterwards. Got my time slightly wrong, but there we go. Anyway, so this is the agenda. Introduction. First, what is a comet? What's different about 3i Atlas? The discrepancies, comparisons, and the timeline. Prophecies. Going to have a little bit of prophecies in there. Summary and references. So yeah, I'll carry on. So Comet 3i Atlas has presented science with a whole set of enigmas since it blasted its way into our field of view within the inner solar system. It is an interstellar visitor to our solar system for sure, but what really is it? Is it a comet? Is it a spaceship? Is it something else? And for those of you who noticed the title, it's called Rendezvous with 3i Atlas. And there's a little bit of a cover from Rendezvous with Rama, because if this is a spaceship, then it kind of is a Rama. So we'll see. But at the moment, we don't actually have anything that's capable of linking up with 3i Atlas. I think the closest we'll get is a probe that's in Jupiter orbit, I think, later on, that will have a closer look. But we ourselves will see a new Christmas this year, peaking around the 19th of December. So it'll be something to look out for, but let's hope we don't get any nasty surprises before then. So first, what is a comet? And yeah, it's basically a giant dirty snowball, or normally. So, as I say, comets are often called dirty snowballs, being cosmic remnants from the solar system's formation 4.6 billion years ago. I mean, obviously, that's what they say, and, you know, there are contradictions on some bits, but that's the generally accepted timescale. Primarily composed of ice, dust, and rock, which orbit the sun. And I think the key thing to remember is ice, because ice obviously does what ice does. So remember that bit. They originate mainly from the Kuiper belt or Oort cloud. The Oort cloud is further out, kind of towards the end of the solar system, and there's one that's a comet that's just been discovered, kind of in proximity to 3i Atlas, that is actually originating from the Oort cloud in the outer solar system. So they've actually described that as a nearly interstellar comet, but as far as we're aware, that's a more standard comet. When a comet nears the sun, solar radiation causes the ice to sublimate, which is effectively like melting, or melting and turning to steam, creating a vast glowing atmosphere, which is called the coma, and a magnificent long tail of gas and dust that can stretch for millions of miles, leading away from the sun. And remember that, away. So what's different about 3i Atlas? Well, it's not a normal dirty snowball. That much is clear. So what makes 3i Atlas different? Well, 3i Atlas distinguishes itself from local comets primarily because it is an interstellar object on a hyperbolic trajectory, meaning it did not form in our solar system and is not bound to the sun. That can be realized by its actual velocity, because it's going far too fast to be kind of constrained by the sun. I can't remember the exact speed, but it's very, very fast indeed. I think at least a third faster than the standard comets. So it's not going to be captured by the sun unless it does something really odd and gets captured. So this will be its one and only visit to this area, well, if it's a natural object. Its uniqueness is further confirmed by its unusual chemical and physical composition, coupled with observed anomalies such as non-gravitational acceleration and an atypical glow or colour. So you'll see that in a moment. So I'll go through a list of discrepancies. I think there's now 11, and I've added a new one just before we started the talk. So Atlas is the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, which is basically the failsafe to say, hey, there's something heading towards Earth. But don't panic on this. As far as we're aware, Atlas is not heading towards Earth. I think there might be something else that is, but don't worry about 3i Atlas at the moment. It's just that Atlas, as a concept, actually has some various arrays and things to actually search the cosmos, and they happen to spot this third interstellar object, hence 3i. There were two others. I think the first one was in 2017, and it was called something like Oumuamua. Mu. It's another Hawaiian word, and I can never pronounce those. And I think we had Two-Eyed Borisov a couple of years ago. Both of them were tiny, tiny in comparison to this thing. So it initially recorded 3 that's entering the solar system at an interstellar speed of approximately 26 kilometers per second. Yeah. Several weeks into transit, follow-up observations revealed a slight deceleration. This rate reduction was considered too subtle to be random chance, yet too pronounced to be solely attributed to standard measurement error. I think that speed must be wrong, but anyway, it's very, very fast. Discrepancy 2, cometary drag can't explain it. The expected way for a comet to slow down is via outgassing, the recoil thrust produced as ice sublimates. So if you think about it, if you were to not have your kettle kind of, tied down and you boiled it to the bottom and you had lots and lots of water in there that turned into steam, it would actually sort of move a bit. And that's exactly what a comet does. But in this case, comprehensive spectroscopic surveys by observatories like the European Southern Observatory and Pan-STARRS found very little volatile activity. This creates a major contradiction. The measured deceleration cannot be justified by the minimal or non-existent tail gas emission. So basically, if this is a standard comet, the math doesn't add up. That's what they're saying with these things here. Discrepancy 3, possible gravitational influences tested. So gravitational models which accounted for solar tides, planetary perturbations, I think that's kind of wobbles and things, radiation pressure, oh God, sorry, tried to install it, and radiation pressure were re-examined by astrophysicists. They concluded that these established forces can only explain a small part of the comet's slowdown. The deficit is substantial, with one expert stating it's not enough to close the equation. So again, the gravitational influences don't explain it. So that's the force of the planet and the sun itself. Discrepancy 4, course correction. So Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, and people are going to go, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist, but in actual fact, he is quite well qualified, and he's only actually asking the questions. He probably likes the exposure, but he is only asking the questions and pointing out the discrepancies, whereas other people are saying, no, ignore it. And as I say, these are perfectly valid questions and points to bring up. So anyway, so he highlights that the unexpected behaviour of both interstellar objects, Oumuamua 2017 and 3i Atlas may share a common explanation. So that had discrepancies as well, but I think it wasn't termed a comet in that case. It was just like an interstellar object. Shared anomalies. Loeb points out that a non-gravitational acceleration exhibited by both objects, even though it occurred in opposite directions, would stem from similar propulsion or relative dynamics, which strengthens the controversial light cell hypothesis. If you're sort of sci-fi buffs, or you kind of look up at the International Space Station, probably more sci-fi buffs, you know that they actually have, if you sort of unfurl like a solar array, you can actually use that as a kind of almost like a sail, because it captures, like particles and kind of helps them to drift. So that's one possible thing that might be happening. So mechanical behavior. The observed deceleration of 3i Atlas could indicate mechanical or structural responsiveness, a characteristic not expected in purely natural bodies. So again, that's something that could be artificial, or if it's not artificial, is not understood using standard cometry dynamics. The flat geometry suggestion, he specifically suggests that if 3i Atlas has a flat geometry, solar radiation, solar torque, could apply uneven pressure that mimics a deliberate course correction. So there's a call for open-mindedness there. While he stops short of concluding the changes are deliberate, Loeb insists that such unusual behaviour demands open-minded investigation. So there's been a course correction and no one can actually explain it. Discrepancy 5, instrumental error. So has there been an instrumental error on it? So critics contend that the reported deceleration may simply be an error caused by an inaccurate velocity calculations. Now, having studied physics and to a certain extent astrophysics at university, I can tell you everyone in physics is very keen on their error bars. So yeah, I mean, they just like error bars just to explain things away. But I think in this case, they can't actually resolve them using large enough error bars. So they point out that the three atlases' faintness and unstable brightness make precise tracking difficult. But since different ground-based telescopes have varying calibration standards, even minor timing errors could result in skewed speed estimates, an issue currently under review. So if you sort of like history buffs or radio buffs, then you'll know if you have enough separate viewpoints, you can kind of, coordinate them to get more accurate readings on size and direction. But basically, the errors still don't add up at the moment. So discrepancy 6, a pattern similar to Oumuamua. This unexpected behaviour isn't unique to 3i Atlas. The first interstellar object, Oumuamua, observed in 2017. I didn't name this, by the way. I have named characters or reference characters in my books that have ridiculous names that I can't then pronounce, but this wasn't on me. So they also experienced non-gravitational acceleration, though it moved in the opposite direction. Because the other thing about 3i Atlas is and I think that's another point coming up, is that it's actually more or less on the planetary plane. Because although you might think, hey, we're in a solar system, all the planets are kind of like all over the place. They're actually not. They're in like a disk. So, they're more or less aligned in a disk, a flat disk. And 3i Atlas is only inclined by something like 5 degrees to that planetary plane. Whereas I think Oumuamua and the other one were at much higher angles. And this nearly interstellar comet that's been spotted recently is kind of perpendicular to that. So I think it's some like 5% chance that it could be like 5 degrees. So in a 1 in point, it's half of 1% possibility that it would be in that position. So it's very unusual from that point of view. So Oumuamua also experienced non-gravitational acceleration, though it moved in the opposite direction. Again, according to Avi Loeb, these similar anomalies could suggest they share the same propulsion or reflective dynamics, lending support to the light sail hypothesis. Discrepancy 7, what the slowdown really means. So the observed deceleration of 3i Atlas, if confirmed, suggests several possibilities. The comet may have a complex material composition, be reacting to solar radiation feedback, or in the most theoretical scenario, possess active control mechanisms. For now, this remains an unresolved mystery, reminding scientists that despite advanced modelling, space continues to yield surprises. So it's another case of we don't know everything still. I think famously at the beginning of the 20th century, Lord Kelvin actually said, science is done. We basically know everything. And then after that, we had Einstein, relativity and special relativity. And, we're still learning. Science isn't. We don't know everything. And 3i Atlas might be natural. I mean, it might not be natural. It might sail out, ignoring us completely. And we think it's some unnatural object. And we think it's a natural object. and there's actually an unnatural object, you know. So we're still learning, and we may not get a conclusion, or then again we might. We have to see. So upon approaching the Earth, 3I Atlas exhibited its first signs of non-gravitational acceleration, according to NASA data. The object's orbital path changed abruptly, noting two specific shifts. Radical acceleration, moving away from the Sun, of 135 kilometers per day squared, and a transverse acceleration perpendicular to the Sun's direction of 60 kilometers per day squared. So those are kind of unexpected things. Well, comets do this, but they kind of outgas, and I'll explain that with the comet analogy, the snowball analogy, in a moment. So discrepancy 9, colour change, blue, not red. Now remember this blue colour, because that kind of links in with one of the other sections in a moment. So although comets are expected to change colour as they approach the Sun, 3I Atlas is defying the norm. Typically, comets turn red when the surrounding dust scatters sunlight to create a reddish hue. So basically, you know that the sunset looks red to us. That's because the atmosphere scatters the sunlight, because the sun has, you know, where it's low, it has the kind of shine through a lot more of the atmosphere, and that kind of turns it more red. So that's kind of the explanation for sunset as well. So that's what happens with comets. So having this one turn blue is a bit odd. It's, you know, I mean, yeah, it's just very odd. However, this particular interstellar comet surprisingly shifted to a blue colour instead. Discrepancy 10, lost tail. So this is another strange one, because as you know, you got a comet, you look up at it, Halley's Comet, there's a tail. Hale-Bopp, even better tail. And there've been some other ones recently, and I think there's another one around at the moment. I think there's some like 3 or 4 comets are literally around at the moment, and they all have comet, you know, they all have tails. So that's what you expect. A comet has a tail. So new observations of the interstellar comet 3I Atlas by researcher Huisheng Zhang at the Lowell Observatory's Discovery Telescope on Wednesday, November the 5th, so that's just over a week ago, show it glowing green and having a hidden tail as it speeds away from the Sun. The comet only recently became visible again after its swing around our star. This distinctive green colour is characteristic of the comet's coma, or atmosphere. The coma, made of gas and dust, brightens as the Sun heats the comet, causing its icy materials to turn directly into gas, a phenomenon most visible through a green filter. So thinking about this, if you've ever been past like a pond, you'll know that it freezes and it gives off steam. Now that is in part sublimation, the actual particle. So the water actually freezes by one molecule becoming ice, and actually another one, or maybe 2, giving off steam. So it actually steams. So there's like an energy exchange, and you get the same thing when icy snowballs, as in comets, go past the Sun. They sublimate, so they basically give off steam, and you get the sort of the actual tail, and that's effectively like steam and dust and stuff. So the comet, made of gas and dust, brightens as the Sun heats the comet, causing its icy materials to turn directly into a gas, a phenomenon most visible through a green filter. So they use various filters to kind of exaggerate the looks of them. So discrepancy 11. Now, there was a debate about this in recent days as to whether 3I Atlas is broken up, because it might have broken up, because that's one of the other options. If it's not made of ice, it's still going to be, you know, basically cooked. So think of it this way: if you put if you put like a chestnut or a nut on the fire, don't try this at home, guys. If you put, a chestnut on the fire or near the fire, and you don't make a hole in it, it basically gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and then it explodes, and there's a massive explosion, and it explodes. In the coldness of space, the actual mass of the exploded bits kind of keep each other together. So it could be kind of exploded and gradually drifting apart, but kind of looks coherent. And there was some debate as to whether it's still coherent or whether it had broken apart, but it didn't. So here the image shows two antitails, jets out 10 arc minutes towards the sun, which is a long way, it's like millions of miles, accompanied by a longer collimated jet extended away from the sun to an angular separation of 30 arc minutes, roughly the diameter of the sun or the moon. So just the discussion here a moment on tails. Now, tails traditionally, because they're kind of boiling off, they face away from the star body in the system they're in. So they're kind of boiling off away from the sun traditionally. So that's a tail. And if they have a tail that faces off in a different direction, particularly perpendicular to it, that's known as an antitail. So by having two antitails, it means there's two little tails. And if you look carefully and squint, the kind of diagonally bottom left, you'll see there's like two little narrow like jets, and they're antitails. But they're so narrow they are effectively jets. But jets of what? No one's really sure. And the more traditional one is the rest of it. However, if you actually look at the so-called tail that's doing the right sort of thing, it's actually made up of distinct jets itself. They're just jets kind of away. So they could be a feature of the material this is made of, or they could be, directional jets, much like you had maneuvering jets on the space shuttle, and they puff a bit of air out for the space station to keep it kind of stable. So it could be, actually controlled. Okay, so for a natural comet, the outflow velocity of the jets is expected to be 0.4 kilometers per second. Of order the sound speed of gas at the distance of 3i Atlas from the sun, at that speed, the jets must have persisted for 1 to 3 months. Now, we know that's not the case. So there's a discrepancy with these jets. They don't relate to standard comets, or there's a discrepancy from standard comets. The required surface area of 3i Atlas to provide the inferred mass loss from the latest post-perihelion image. So post-perihelion means after it was at the closest point to the sun, because perihelion is, what's Greek, isn't it? It means closest to the sun, Helios being the god of the sun, root god, I think, so Helios. The image at least 16 times larger than the upper limit derived from its Hubble image on July 21st, 2025. This is in the realm of object breaking up. Hence, there are two options. Basically, it boils off like a boiling snowball, or it explodes like a chestnut. And this has done neither. So it's another discrepancy. So the jets are the discrepancy. It didn't break up. So this is the new one I added today, because literally 2 days ago, and it takes some like 24 hours to process these things. The 3i Atlas Nordic Optical Telescope 2 days ago actually has got a clear picture of 3i Atlas, and it's in one piece. It's kind of clearly resolved there as one piece. So it's not broken up. So it's not got a tail, and it's not sort of broken up. I think I've kind of explained how the snowball works, but I'll add it here later on. But that's what we're talking about here, and this is the latest picture. So this is the list of all the discrepancies. So velocity change, no outgassing or cometary tail, no possible gravitational influences can explain its slowdown, course correction, instrumental error, pattern similar to Oumuamua, what the slowdown really means, non-gravitational acceleration, colour change blue, not red, lost tail, jets, and it's still in one piece. So those are the discrepancies. I'm sure we can cover any specific one at the end Q&A. So comparisons, this is a comparison between typical comet for Atlas. So origin and orbit, a typical comet, formed within the solar system, bound by the sun's gravity, originating from the Kuiper belt or the Oort cloud. Atlas, interstellar origin, formed elsewhere and is not bound by the sun's gravity, following a hyperbolic trajectory. Basically, it's curving in and back out again. Deceleration, typical comet, slows down due to outgassing, where sublimating ice creates a recoil thrust that is measurable and expected. Atlas displays non-gravitational acceleration or deceleration that cannot be explained by known forces. Volatile activity, so normal comet exhibits significant sublimation, outgassing as it nears the sun, creating a large visible tail and comet, whereas 3 Atlas spectroscopic surveys show minimal volatile activity, no gas emission tail to justify the measured deceleration. Colour near the sun, a typical comet turns reddish hue as dust scatters sunlight. 3 Atlas surprisingly shifted to a blue colour, defying the normal expectation. Composition response, normal comet composed primarily of ice, dust and rock, expected to behave according to standard gravitational models. 3 Atlas possesses unusual chemical and physical properties and has been theorized to exhibit mechanical structural responsiveness, including Avi Loeb's light cell hypothesis. So that's just a kind of a bit of a summary of it. And here's the timeline. So yeah, the outer solar system is vast. I mean, you know what they're called, Voyager 1 and 2. They're still in our solar system. They're kind of going past the fiery edge of it and going into like no man's land, but technically they're still in the solar system. And 3 Atlas first entered our solar system in around 6000 BCE. So you go, well, can't be an alien probe. But just bear in mind, you know, our species has been, you know, hundreds of thousands of years. So 6000 BCE isn't that long ago. So 3 Atlas was discovered by, not surprisingly, Atlas, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System station. That was only the 1st of July, 2025, so not that long ago. And this is because, I mean, our instrumentation is so much better than it used to be. I mean, we've only been seeing these things since like 2017, but I'm sure there have been others. So 3 Atlas passed Mars on the 3rd of October 2025. Now, obviously, one of the theories about that is, oh, you know, why didn't NASA release the pictures? You know, because of the government shutdown and everything. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe, but they have issued other things. So they kind of could have done if they wanted to. So obviously questions as to why they haven't or didn't. But if the government shutdown has now been like resolved, then you'd hope that we'd see the pictures from the Mars probes orbiting Mars. They had a much better view on 3rd of October than pretty much anything else, because they're, you know, probes for looking at Mars, and I think they actually turned some of the sensors outwards to look at this thing. So, you know, there should be some really good pictures of it close up, but we haven't seen them yet. So 29th of October 2025, so just a couple of weeks ago now, this was at perihelion, the closest approach to this. And to look forward to, the closest approach to Earth by 3 Atlas, 19th of December 2025. So it'll be the new Christmas star. So look out for that. Well, it wouldn't be complete without a little bit of woo and some prophecies, etc. So the prophecies, there's a couple of prophecies, not too many. I mean, you know, disappointingly, there's none from Nostradamus on this one, but there you go. We'll make do what we got. So is this the blue star Kashina? So the Hopi's blue star Kashina. So the Hopi tribe in North America believed that humanity is currently residing in the fourth world, Tuwakachi. Like the previous worlds, Tuwakachi is also prophesied to be destroyed because of the corruption of humanity. Well, yeah, a fair amount of corruption going on, it's true, but there we go. The ninth and final sign of destruction is described by Whitefeather, by Frank Waters' book of the Hopi, as you will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens, like a spaceship, I guess, above the earth that shall fall with a great crash. See what happens? It will appear as a blue star. Now, we don't see any, very many brand new blue stars. So it's got to be an option. So very soon after this, the ceremonies of my people will cease. So we'll see what happens. But this is often disputed as a 1960s invention. But then 1960s is still, over 60 years ago. And no one knew about this thing. So, it's interesting. But we'll see. If these things do happen, then get a bunker, I guess. So a Kashina is a spiritual entity or personification of a natural phenomenon, ancestor, or concept central to the religious beliefs of the Hopi and other Pueblo peoples. That's other Native American peoples that reside in North, South, Central, and South America, I think. So another good old favourite, I'm sure you've come across before, Baba Vanga. She made an alien contact prophecy. So she's a Bulgarian clairvoyant who died over 25 years ago, allegedly predicted humanity would make contact with extraterrestrial life in 2025. So according to reports, Vanga warned humanity will make contact with extraterrestrial life, possibly leading to a global crisis or apocalypse. So kind of ties in with the blue star if it kind of happens, and it's this one. The mystic gained recognition for allegedly accurate predictions, including the Chernobyl disaster and the September 11th, 2001 attacks. There's nothing from Nostradamus, but the Brazilian Atos Salome, the living Nostradamus, claims that the James Webb Telescope will be the instrument through which we uncover alien life. And there are some James Webb images of 3i Atlas. So again, we'll see on that. So this is the summary. 3i Atlas remains an enigma, and as I say, anyone who says otherwise is incorrect, because we don't understand it. It's different. We don't know what it is. It looks like it should act like a comet we are used to in our solar system, but it is defying all our current scientific knowledge and acting quite differently. We still aren't sure if it is natural or technological. Should we remain calm or prepare for an alien invasion? Here's the references. You can play this back and look carefully. I still need to add one, but hey, done quite well with these. So, happy holidays. See you on December the 19th. 3i. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. That was excellent. So it's actually always good to see science first, and you explained that quite well. Because some people, they jump into the woo-woo too early, which, I'm glad you went through a detailed explanation and exploration of what 3i Atlas is, and what its history is, what its explanations are, what makes it weird, and what makes it interesting. Of course, if you've been looking at Twitter, or Reddit over the course of the last 3 months, 3i Atlas has been the #1 trending topic for a kind of a reason. Because I've never seen the sheer amount of conspiracy and chaos and confusion ever, apart from perhaps, sometime in the 2000s. We're talking about, 9/11 or whatever. But, this is it's a topic that I think you mentioned there about the blue star, that whole conspiracy and prophecy around that. I mean, I posted a link in the chat here. So on the ASSAP's British ufology page, about a week and a half ago, I deliberately went out there and because I saw a post from a remote viewer who claims to have gone to 3i Atlas. And he was a CIA intelligence analyst called Sebastian somebody. His video went viral. It was a Gaia interview, which, take from that what you will. But because of that, I decided to catalogue. I spent an entire evening going through Twitter, X, Facebook, the internet in general, of every person who is claimed to have took a remote viewing expedition to 3i Atlas. And every post was so different, so radically different. But actually that made it interesting, because I think someone mentioned in this thread here, is there a potential where it might be a cult mass suicide incident like Heaven's Gate? Would people be thinking that the end of the world is here? And the way the internet works, of course, you can hit a lot of people very, very quickly.
Okay. And my take on that, I did just remote view the amount of people on board. I also remote viewed the technology was inside, the whole decks, the pods, the whole thing on the inside. So I can see they are using antimatter and fusion technology, and they also have pods housing less than 5 million direct reptilian soldiers inside. And so they're all dormant, they're not using space, they're not eating, they're not doing anything, they're just basically just waiting to be awakened.